All right, we're going to jump back into the LAPD shooting, and I heard that Anahita wants to call out Dr. Drew about something.
Oh, joy!
Yes, I would like to call you out. So during the A block, you made a statement. You said, "This isn't Ferguson."
Correct.
So I'm wondering, so is the suggestion that Ferguson was somehow a racially motivated shooting?
Oh, I was saying more, I don't want people to contemplate that it was. I didn't say that it does not have the earmarks of the circumstances that a Ferguson, which created a sense of there being a racial component to it.
Did you get that sense from Ferguson?
Did I get that sense? Now that we're seeing some of this stuff come from the federal government, worry that it's weird to me that there's so many, the officers did not reflect the makeup of the community there, and now we're seeing a bunch of communications that suggested a real, problem.
But not in this particular case. I guess my thing was that before the show we were kind of talking about the knee-jerk reaction of a lot of the people in the community saying, that this was possibly racially motivated and Black Lives
Well, possibly
Matter.
it was. I mean, that's what we wanted to look at.
Well, the one in L.A. wasn't racially. This wasn't racially.
The question was it? No, it's something to think about.
I know, but when we say, well, this isn't Ferguson, I mean, I took it, and I'm glad you clarified, I took it to mean that possibly the suggestion was that was racially motivated when the department, that Ferguson was, but we know that the grand jury didn't indict. We know that the evidence
Ferguson was racially motivated. I mean, of course,
but
it didn't.
It was not.
It wasn't. Well, it's one of those things,
numbers from the new report.
Yeah,
exactly.
we get numbers. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's also like you were saying, people rally behind something, and if it's something that they were already upset about, it's like, how can we make this tie into this other issue that we're discussing? And for me, the shooting that happened is much more about, and you guys talked about this a little bit, but the fact that the police officers are almost scared and on guard when they go into these situations. They don't feel safe. People don't feel like they're coming in to protect them. So no matter what the situation is, it's a no-win for anyone.
Have any of you volunteered on Skid Row? Because I have.
I've been down there a
Drew
bunch.
and I went.
Yeah, and it's so scary. And I'm talking about, like, even in the broad of daylight, I am nervous because people are...
Well, there's a lot of people who are not connected to reality.
They're not connected at all.
And
so
there's a lot of
you're
drug
not
addicts
sure.
that need
drug
money.
addicts. They need money.
Yeah.
You feel the tension and you get fearful. Yeah. So I can only imagine. Now I'm a cop and I'm down there trying to protect and serve, and then someone aggressively starts charging at me. I mean, it's sad.
Here are some of the findings from the federal report in Ferguson. From 2012 to 2014. 85% of people subject to vehicle stops by Ferguson police were African American. 90% of those who received citations were African American, and 93% of people arrested were African American. This, while 60% of the Ferguson population is African American.
Well, that makes sense.
That
makes sense. I was going to ask you for the last what we're talking about. So that makes sense, and I feel like if they want to conduct an investigation as to other matters, by all means do that. But the Department of Justice did not file any civil rights violations with respect to what happened at Ferguson. And in fact, the witnesses that testified before the grand jury, the African-American ones, corroborated the officer's version of events. So my thing is that people have the right to free speech. They can go protest. They can express their views. But I think we're going down the wrong road when we instinctively make shootings racial matters.
I agree with you.
I agree.
However, I believe that people are touching on something profound and real. And this, when they say Black Lives Matter, I think there is a marginalization. I think there's something going on that they're touching. I don't think it's fully taken form yet, frankly. And I think it bleeds over into the mental health aspect of this and why they're not being held, why the care is not being properly provided. I think it bleeds into issues of privilege and why people with privilege don't see what's going on. There's something here that I hope meaningful comes out of it. So while I agree with you, I understand what you're saying as a factual matter. I think as a more sort of social issue that's going on in our social fabric, I think there's something real here.
And I agree with you. I agree that we have a huge issue with the way race is handled in our criminal justice system. I see it every day.
Okay.
I just wish that it wouldn't be brought into
okay. All right, fair enough.
I also just wish that, there are these things that happen, and yes, it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
But I wish there was a positive light brought to it as well. Yes, these things are happening, but let's talk about police officers in a way that, because if a kid is watching this stuff happening, they're like, I don't think there are a lot of little kids who are going to come up and say, I want to be a cop now because of the conversation surrounding police officers.
Right. And people are going to be more afraid of them, too, which is even worse and creates more trouble, more tension, stuff like that. But if we say too positive, things aren't going to change. So we do need a little bit of a
yes,
little bit
have
of
the
an answer to some of
conversation,
this.
but at the same time, I think that when you just focus on the negative so much more negative comes out.
Okay, Kate, where are we
All right,
going
when
with this?
I think we need to go with kind of like a race question. If you hear of these shootings, does your mind automatically go to, oh, it was a race issue, yes or no? And if it does, let us know why. That's your first thought.